If I were to like artificially come up with this image of a twig of a man, 130 pounds, trying to bench press 95 pounds, and on the 5th rep, grinding it out and barely getting those 95 pounds up, and then taking a pause and then going back and doing 3 or 4 more sets of that, I think badass.
I think badass too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not about the weight. It's about the fact that you grinded it out.
What it do, what it does, where you been, where you was, what it ain't, what it is. Face in the mud, I really be hating in the mud. Said I can't pick it up, but I did. Y'all know Goon put too much bass in the sub. Cup full of blood and I gave it a chug. Wait till your neighbors get all snug, then play this real loud where you live.
This episode of the podcast, DMP, episode 10, is sponsored by Magnesium Breakthrough by BiOptimizers. And the folks at BiOptimizers have done it again. They've just released their new and improved formula for Magnesium Breakthrough, the most powerful magnesium supplement on the market today. Their magnesium supplement was already amazing. It's something I've been using for over a year, but BiOptimizers has continued to research and improve it. This 4th generation formula means Magnesium Breakthrough is now even more potent and effective for reducing stress, improving sleep, and boosting energy levels. I slept so well last night, which is good because I need the recovery. Still trying to get that 400 triple deadlift off the ground. I think I'm ready to call it quits.
I think perhaps you should stick to your guns because this is your first plateau. It's a make or break moment. And when you pull it, you will feel joy.
Yeah. Well, I need to optimize for everything. Optimize. BiOptimizers. I need to dial in every...
You need to BiOptimize.
every single part of my kind of like routine and diet, and like I'm like, oh, am I lacking in micronutrients? Let me make sure I'm like getting a good amount of fruits and vegetables in. I've been trying to do a slight cut, which is probably what's been hurting the gains. Like, oh, let me just cut barely, or maybe put another week of the surplus in there. I've been getting everything dialed in, and that goes for sleep as well. So Magnesium Breakthrough has been very helpful in this regard, because it does help me sleep better. And I like check my sleep scores every day. I'm like, please, when I attempt this again, let me get this up. It's actually pretty awesome how weight training, if you take it seriously, it just like affects everything in your life. In order to become someone who can lift a weight, you have to change as a human being.
Yeah, your life has to become structured around like recovering for the next session.
Yeah. And so in this regard, this sponsor, Magnesium Breakthrough by BiOptimizers, it's been an important part of my journey these last, 8 or 9 months. The new formula now includes cofactors like B6 and manganese that help with the absorption of magnesium. 75% of people do not get enough magnesium. This is a much bigger problem than most people think, because when you don't get enough magnesium, you suffer from poor sleep, low energy, and even higher stress levels. And there's no risk with it because BiOptimizers also offers a full year of money-back guarantee. So if you're not totally happy for any reason at all, just send back your remained unopened bottles within a year and they'll give you a full refund. Just visit my link in the description box, that's magnesiumbreakthrough.com/Captain Sinbad, and use my code SINBAD10 at checkout to save 10% and get free shipping. That's magnesiumbreakthrough.com/Captain Sinbad with the code SINBAD10. Before getting going with this podcast, we also want to pitch our Instagrams. I'm N. Raja Pandey.
I'm Mammoth in Space on Instagram.
Yeah. If you want to give us some suggestions on future episodes, just connect with us, get a heart, honestly. Any reason. I try to put up cool posts.
I try to as well. I respond to maybe 10% of DMs, but I heart them all.
Yeah. So you can find us there. You can also subscribe to the channel newsletter, which is in the description box. And I'm currently taking 4 more clients for one-on-one coaching. So if you want to apply for coaching with me, you can find that in the description box as well.
And check out the app Transmuted on the Google Play Store and the App Store.
This episode of the podcast is inspired by a couple of First Man videos. It's all about confidence. And I haven't often had a ton of confidence when it comes to, well, my confidence feels like it's bipolar. Like, in terms of myself, I've always felt some level of like respect for myself as like a human male who tries. But like whenever in college there'd be like dance parties or the dance settings were like the most stressful. Like it was like homecoming dance. But I guess in new settings, I've often been very nervous. And yet confidence is actually one of the most true, genuine confidence is one of the most powerful things there is to make moves in your life. I've often said that the reason I like NoFap so much is because you still feel that fear, but the aggression that you get from it, it helps you override your fears. It gives you courage in the face of fear.
Yeah.
And man, I gotta be honest, despite the fact that I've done some things in my life that I'm proud of, I'm often very nervous. I mean, this could be if I'm at a party, I'm like nervous to talk to new people and initiate new conversation. In the past, like I've never done day game. I've never like done cold approach.
Oh, neither have
women.
I. Fuck that.
But you know, I've had a desire to. It's not like because I think I'm above it. Like there would be a time, these would be like those first few years when I left my hometown, and my very first time living on my own was in Portland because I had a research thing there. I had like a friend, we were like studying for the MCAT together, and he was really into, Felix his name was, he was really into cold approach. And I would be like, oh, I'm just never going to do that. But I did admire him for the guts it took to do that. And I know you like maybe you super look down upon something.
I don't look down on it at all.
Yeah.
I'm just like, man, I don't know why I would ever do that. Not that I don't have confidence that like perhaps a stranger could be worth my time, but it's like I just don't know. Like I've done no vetting of this woman. It's just a woman I've seen on the street. So it's like I don't know. Like I pick up in that sense. It's like I feel there's such a good chance that I'd be like wasting my time because like as soon as I do talk to this chick, I wouldn't even like her anyways, you know? And like we'd have nothing in common because she's just some random woman I'm seeing on the street. So it's just like it's never seemed like the effective way to do things. That's why I never did it.
Yeah, that is true, but that is true for literally any endeavor in life at all. You never know if something is going to be worth your time. Like the investigation of that is almost like your duty as a man.
But I think like with dating apps, for example, it's like at least with the texting first, you can do a bit of vetting to like find out if there's any common ground, or like if you meet people in real life and have conversations with them as friends first, you know, to sort of establish like where you're going to actually put some energy. But putting myself into that like scary situation, it's like I was also just let's just put this out there now, way too afraid to ever do cold approaches ever, most of the time, especially as a younger man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because I would be the exact same boat. And also, to this day, I think I'd be too afraid to do cold approach.
Oh, hell yeah. No, it's never.
But I think that's maybe that seeps into other aspects of life. I mean, dare I say, there's something you might gain from the risk taking that cold approach would require, because these dating apps, they're a new invention. So in the past, we would have to investigate, like we'd have to vet with more inefficiency, but like with every interaction, with every attempt at dating or trying to get a new business partner or something, we would need to step out in faith, maybe take a few punches to the face, and there'd be a more daily exertion of courage. And I guess the only reason I'm saying that is because I'm curious about if I had more confidence in my life today, where would that take me? I haven't told you this yet, but so we recently shot and delivered on a commercial for a big brand at like a 5-figure return. Is our biggest it's not a brand deal, but it's our biggest videography work.
Client work, yeah.
Yeah, client work. My goal is actually I want to book like a luxury brand as like a videographer by this summer. And I take inspiration from someone like Ryan Cow, who's a really cool filmmaker, YouTuber. And he booked a deal with Prada. And I don't know how much that went for, but I would imagine it would be 5 figures.
Oh, at least for Prada?
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah. So I'm like, can I book a brand for 20 grand? And Matt D'Avella had talked about this once where he said like the first time he booked a client for over $10,000, he like was scared out of his mind. And then it became a common thing. And I'm like, I think there is a future where we can do this. Take on client work like this. I mean, even if we independently learned videography as a business, what it would mean is that I would just like take on less brand deals on the channel.
Yeah.
And dude, I see people who make way more money than us as just freelance videographers, and it pisses me off because they're not even that talented.
No, and this is someone who is talented, but I know Sam Newton is like on that route, and he does tons of stuff for like at different brands, especially that watch brand. I
was getting together with this guy Devin, who I met through boxing once.
Yep.
He knows a guy in Fargo, North Dakota, who pulls in $250,000 a year.
God damn.
From videography, and he hasn't left Fargo.
Wow.
So we should just be super depressed about ourselves.
Yeah.
No. What we should do is be like, if he can do it, we can do it 10 times better.
Of course.
Yeah, that's what it is. But like, a lot of what leads to results like that is just having the bravado to feeling like you can do that sort of things. Like, this bleeds into every aspect of your life. I've said this before, but one of my boxing coaches charges $40 an hour. Another charges $60 an hour, and another charges $60 for 45 minutes. And I'm like, I would pay all of these people all of their rates, you know. But the guy who charges 40, he's one of the better coaches. He just doesn't know to charge more. Is that confidence? That's
yeah. I think it's similar to confidence. It's like knowing your value.
Knowing your value. I think confidence and knowing your value are very similar in
They're in the same worlds, yeah. But like, I know who you're speaking about, and that guy is very confident to me, the guy who charges 40 an hour.
Yeah.
But I think he's just unaware.
Yeah. Well, I guess what we're trying to say with this intro is that confidence is hugely valuable, because when you apply confidence to different settings, courage / confidence, that energy of not being afraid to go after things. Whether it is cold approach, whether it's a new business deal, whether it's the confidence to go for a higher rate on your work, the compounding effect of that is enormous. And I feel genuinely like at this point I should work to make myself more confident. I feel like I'm not actually at my full level of confidence. And so that's why I was curious about this topic in many ways, because I want to investigate how to increase this. I think if you can raise your level of confidence, and not artificially, and not through like semantics and figuring out something in your head, but like things you do. I often believe like doing things changes your mind more than like thinking through things. Oh,
100%.
Yeah.
Thinking through things often, most of the time, I would say, does absolutely nothing for you.
Yeah. It's worth developing this facet of your life if it can be developed. And so I want to keep developing it. And I think for a lot of viewers, we may think we're fine with our confidence because we're not like shy. We don't have like, we don't let our social anxiety cripple us at parties or whatnot. But there's probably a new level to find in that. But First Man has this concept, which I'm curious on investigating, is like, you can't, like the reason you have low confidence or your confidence is underdeveloped is because you have low value. Do you agree with that phrase, or what does that mean to you?
I think off first instinct, yeah, I would agree. I think that when I did not have much going for me, when I was still very inexperienced in editing and videography and I didn't feel all that skilled, the only thing that I knew about myself was my work capacity, really. I didn't have like skills. And I think that lends like a level of dignity, you know, like you mentioned in the beginning, like you always have this level of dignity because you know what you're capable of. But it's like now I have a lot of confidence because I can look at what I've done and I can see a lot of proof of myself completing tasks like time and time again and not shirking my responsibilities. And I think just living, you know, your philosophy and proving to yourself constantly that you are capable of a lot and a lot more than most people, then you can look around and be like, damn, I've been doing this for years and I know I'm harder than you. Like, and when you can kind of look at another person and like feel that and know it in your bones, like I can outdo you. I don't care who you are. Like that just gives your step a little confidence. And it's something that you can only like you said, like kind of like live your philosophy and prove it to yourself.
Yeah, like it doesn't surprise me that you might have a solid amount of confidence because your work ethic is so on point. But it's funny, I thought my results would give me confidence as a younger man. And around 2019 to 2021, when my results started to improve, in the sense that this channel started taking off, our monthly revenue did hit 5 figures consistently, and I thought all of that would give me confidence. But looking back, I think it was a very fake confidence. Like, it didn't truly, I still was kind of insecure, and I couldn't pinpoint why I felt insecure, but I think, like, secretly I had respected certain aspects of performance in life that I was just neglecting for the sake of, I don't know, revelry. And I was kind of insecure about that. Like, I wasn't happy with my physique. Not even my physique, my efforts towards my physique. And a lot of aspects of my life, it just felt like Hamza has made this beautiful point in one of his unfiltered videos. A thing that gives you confidence is your perceived effort compared to what you can do, not necessarily your results.
That's what I think your key point right there was like your efforts towards your physique.
Yeah.
It's like even not being happy with your physique, if you manage to like get your fat ass outside and go for a 6-mile run, you're gonna be like, oh shit, I did this once, I could do it a bunch more times.
Yeah.
Like that. Michael Jordan has like a really wonderful quote where he's like, as long as you like put the work in, like there's no need to feel fear, because like you put the work in, like you should know.
Yeah.
You know, and that's it. Like I put the work in, so why do I got to be scared?
And what's cool is that the work you put in, it changes like what you need to feel confident or whatnot. It'll change that day based off of what you're capable of doing that day. Because you can't go for like a 1 rep max every day.
No.
Well, maybe Bugenhagen would say
Eric
you can.
Bugenhagen can, but you know that man has defeated science.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. Did you say that he had like internal bleeding because he would brace so hard?
Oh yeah. He was peeing blood. So
holy shit.
he would brace so hard during heavy squats, I think it was, and then he would pee blood. And his doctor was just like, yeah, that intra-abdominal pressure, so just bursting capillaries or something.
Unreal.
Yeah,
that is just a man of ungodly determination,
unparalleled mindset.
Yeah. And so I'm beginning to approximate a better perceived effort compared to like what my true potential is, and I feel slightly more confident about that these days. My mental space has improved, but it wasn't necessarily the results. So like for anyone who's watching, who's on the downside of advantage, who feels like, I don't know, not happy with their lot in life, I think a big thing that could just give you happiness for that day is to start that day genuinely thinking like, what is my potential today? Like with just a handful of efforts, what can I do? Pitiful as I am, like what can I do today? And if you can get yourself to do even 90% of what you said at the start of that day, if you can get yourself to do it, you can just look anyone in the eye. You get so confident for that day, and then you got to earn it again the next day.
Yeah, and I think it's the accumulation of those days. Like once you do that for like a year or a few years, then you'll like just look back and realize, like I don't think I ever like day to day was like, damn, I have more confidence today than yesterday. It was like looking back like 2 years later and being like, damn, I didn't have this type of confidence around people. I wasn't able to like speak with this much finality before. Like, and if I did, it was fake. Yeah, I think, and I think those like hard times, like if you are in like a low point, that is where you prove to yourself that you have it. Mm-hmm. It's not you're not going to prove to yourself that you're like hard when shit's good.
Los Angeles culture is very tough on the mind, especially because so many people, they're only there, it has this reputation that no one's from LA, even though a lot of people are from LA. No one's from LA, everyone comes to LA. They're coming from like Ohio and whatnot. And everyone in any party, especially if you're like in any of the circles where people are trying to get results, is a bunch of insecure people trying to prove themselves. And so in LA, there's this like trope where the people who like look put together and sexy and like the outfits are on point, they're the people trying to like climb the social ladder. Mm-hmm. And the people who are just there casually in t-shirts with like beach hair and like flip-flops, they don't care, they're the people who are like the tech billionaires. Like they don't actually give a fuck.
Yeah.
And it's like, where does confidence come from in that place? In my LA days, I was deeply insecure, even though I was the guy who was dressed well at the bungalow on a Friday night, always trying to get results. But maybe it was the environment I was in. It was also like maybe lack of knowledge, maybe just not enough time had passed. I was also just working, a salary job as a teacher. If you're working 50 hours, 60 hours a week at $20 an hour, it's just hard with no hope of making more money.
Yeah.
It's like you're kind of trapped. You need access to business and scale and leverage. I was just so insecure. And this last week, it's been a long time since I've been to a party. Maybe it was actually a month ago. I was at a party, like a St. Patrick's Day type party, and I felt so confident. And it wasn't just because it's gonna make me sound a bit douchey, because I was like, I probably make the most amount of money here. it was the fact that I've been working super hard on my business and my physique. So it wasn't actually the tangible result, but it was this feeling I was in this space. And, you know, I probably shouldn't be having these thoughts because people aren't trying to compete with me. Everyone's trying to like do their best and like enjoy this party. But I was like, damn, I probably outwork everyone here. Like both on my body and like how much I'm trying to like fight through in myself. And I was like, I don't think I've been this confident in so long, you know?
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe that would change with the circumstance. Because if I'm using external things to find my confidence, then as soon as I get into a circle where everyone around me is more successful than me, I'll lose that confidence, right? Because there's a ton of people way more successful than me.
Exactly.
So I shouldn't point to external markers for that. But my efforts have been good, and it's like, dude, I just work. I try really hard. That's it. I'm confident now.
Yeah. I think the same thing just happened to me. And I think a lot of it, because I remember when I would be in like high school and college and like being in those like party scenes, I'd always just feel like a fish out of water. You know, I never felt, and I just assumed like, oh, like I'm just like not a person who likes parties or some shit, which is like kind of true. But at least now when I'm in those settings, I feel just like capable, you know, and it's like, I just, I think before I had all this pressure on myself to like impress or like prove that I wasn't like a fucking loser or something. And now it's like, I just know that I'm cool and I know that I like me and I know that I'll leave this party and like, if these people don't like me, I don't care because I'm the shit and like you suck, you know? Like, so I think like with those tech billionaires, it's like they just have nothing to prove anymore. They don't have anything to prove to these like LA weirdos who are like trying to like, you know, just social climb. And they're just like, yeah, sure, whatever, cool, actor, whatever, cool. And so like I kind of will like, if I'm with my sister or these people who party and like they're at a bar scene or something, I'm just like, well, you know, hopefully I find somebody I can like, maybe I feel like unfamiliar and therefore like slightly nervous but it's just like, I know that none of my self-worth is tied to how this goes. Yeah. You know?
Because then in LA, people recognize that the people who are actually on top are very aloof. So then people try to fake aloofness. People like try to preemptively climb at something or grasp at something that you cannot truly fake.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh man, it's a tough environment to try to make friends or have romance because people are super trying to flex on each other and it's coming from a very insecure place.
Because people think I feel this way. It's like, and I see it very often in the YouTube space too. People think if like you get the optics right, then like the career will be right. Like if someone's like a tech billionaire, they look a certain way to the outside world. And people think if they can match that look, then they can have the tech billionaire thing too. But it didn't go in that order, you know?
Yeah. And you know, you never know, like, theoretically, you could have more confidence than the tech billionaire. If the tech billionaire, maybe what he or she feels is like the accumulated effect of efforts, like you said. But it's kind of a tough example because oftentimes people become billionaires from tech is because they use the scale of the internet or an app to such a fantastic degree that like you just caught wind of enormous scale. You just impacted a billion people or something. So it's like, I say this because I briefly met Snapchat's CEO, who at the time was the youngest billionaire before Kylie Jenner took that rank from him. And very, very kind of like quiet, kind energy. Like he didn't seem super like, he was the most quiet person in the room about the whole things. And he was just like a kind listener. But it was a very brief interaction with him.
Yeah, I'll say two things. One, I think like quiet people can be very confident. It's like, totally. I don't think confidence necessarily exhibits itself as like the alpha chat in the room, you know?
Yeah.
And then also, I think there's a ton of people who are like, quote unquote, by like the metrics successful.
Yeah.
But if they didn't earn it, like you can smell lack of confidence. You can smell fear in a person when you speak to them. You could smell someone who's trying to impress you, you know? And I've definitely met people who are like, above my position on paper, who I can tell are like trying to get me to like them. And I don't give a shit because I know who I am, you know?
Yeah, with him, it was interesting because when you come across someone like that, you just become naturally curious.
Yes.
So I like kind of dug into him a little bit and I found out, you know, he grew up enormously wealthy. He grew up in the Pacific Palisades. His dad had given him something like a $50,000 or $100,000 loan to start his app. His parents were like really wealthy lawyers. But at the same time, he went to Stanford for product design and was like really passionate about it. So it was an amalgamation of things.
Yeah.
But there was obviously, there's a lot that went into a guy like that. What I'm trying to say is like, you can be the same as a billionaire in confidence, because what would have given him confidence to start out is his efforts with product design. Like his efforts at Stanford and the things of his own making, they lead to confidence.
Yeah.
But the things I'm guessing here, like I don't really know the guy, but you know, like getting a loan from your dad and then building a career off that by itself would not make you confident. The confidence might come from the idea and the hiring and the execution of all that. And I know this because when I went to India in Mumbai for an acting workshop, basically this acting workshop was expensive enough. It was 50,000 rupees. That basically everyone was just a rich kid.
What is that in US dollars?
Was it 50? Maybe it was 20,000 rupees. I think it was something like a couple $1,000s. I don't know, dude. Maybe it was like $500 actually.
Okay.
So, okay, now, but at the time it felt like a lot of money to me.
Right.
I had to get those $500 from my dad. And I think a lot of the people there were there from their parents. And maybe it was 10,000 rupees, which I believe might be $500, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was a lot of like, and a couple of the kids were like star children. That's a term in Bollywood where it's like they're the child of a famous star.
Yeah.
And one of them is like Chunky Pandey's son. The Indian viewers would recognize who that is. So yeah, I think his name was Ayan Pandey or something. He was there. He was always late. Chain smoker. He was like this 21-year-old kid who just like, I think he was trying to like be an actor.
He reminds me of myself when I was in my early 20s.
Straight up though, he was a great actor. It was weird because I'm like, oh, I wanted to hate this guy. He's just always late. He's the child of like a straight up movie star. And
everything handed to him, kind of a douchebag.
But great on camera. He was given like it was like a gay love scene where one lover has to give medication to his other because the other one has AIDS. It was like this really traumatic scene, and I'm so glad I didn't get that scene. And he just took it and he killed it. I think he straight up just made out with the guy, and like it like didn't tell the guy in advance.
Damn. Epic. Wow. Commitment.
Yeah, and the guy was like, the guy just rolled with it because that guy was also like a committed actor.
Yes.
But I was like, okay, yeah, very focused.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of fake confidence in that environment because we all kind of like knew like none of us deserve being here. And there was a night, I've never said this, but there was a night where a couple of us actors were going to a party in town. I don't know what that means, but like we were in Mumbai and then we drove like an hour and a half to go to town somewhere. It was like a club environment.
Got it.
And the taxi driver was talking about how, I don't know, the taxi driver was kind of bummed on his life. He was like, for this some amount of money, he was driving these privileged kids somewhere. And that like discrepancy in our life situation, like none of us had earned it, but he was like working so hard for his money. That you feel that a lot in India, where you're so wealth and poverty are so close to each other.
Yeah.
And at one point, someone was chatting about like spirituality because it was just a bunch of like drunkish kids. Like I wasn't saying anything because I felt very uncomfortable by it, but the kid was trying to like preach to him basically, and he's like, none of you are better than me. We just started out different. And I was like, I mean, that is true because that guy was fucking grinding that night.
Yeah.
And he kind of shut her down. This person, she was like trying to preach spirituality to him.
What an idiot.
Yeah, I was like, why are you talking to this guy about this?
Yeah, the lack of perspective that, especially kind of like where I grew up around a lot of rich kids.
Yeah,
like it can be insane to hear them speak, and I think you can't choose where you started out. Mm-hmm. So it's like the only thing you have to go by is your efforts. Yeah, and that's why I feel like when you're there and you're feeling like, oh, I don't deserve this. That's only like a perception you've put on yourself. It's like as long as you sort of earn your place there by like showing up to work. Like no offense, the kid who showed up late, he's the only one who doesn't deserve to be there because he's not taking it seriously. Yeah. Like you have to like earn your place. Like however you got there, sure, whatever. Like a million things led to that privilege. So I think the only thing you have to do is show up in that moment, like earn your place in the moment, you know?
In the US, we've always been middle class. We would watch the price on things. When I wanted like a Game Boy as a kid, my dad would be like, that's $100, you know, like this money could be spent getting a week's worth of groceries. Definitely, like he could have bought it very easily.
Yeah.
My dad's like a senior software engineer and has been for a long time, so good salary and all that. My dad's such a fucking badass. I've said this often. Much better man than I ever will be. But in India, I've often felt guilty for feeling rich because, you know, the dollar is 50 rupees, so like you feel that change. You know, the buying power goes up a lot.
Yes.
And I, you know, something about being an NRI, non-resident Indian, for my American viewers, like they kind of like treat you differently. Maybe it's when I speak in Hindi, I have an American accent, and they even maybe my mannerisms or something. Or even maybe it's the fact that I'm just tall.
I think you could probably tell a foreigner they're a fucking mile away.
Yeah. I'm just a foreigner, but like you get treated a little differently, like novelty, and I just felt very strange about the whole thing, and I felt guilty often. Like I felt like I didn't earn it. I didn't earn this whatever royal status that I occasionally feel. Maybe not in the city so much, but especially going back to my parents' towns. And I'm like, well, I didn't do anything to deserve this. I'm just like the son of a king or something, you know?
Yeah.
And it kind of comes back to our original point that we kind of established here is like, it doesn't matter what your rank is. Self-worth, for me anyway, it comes from my level of efforts, my perceived efforts. Let's switch gears here and now talk about it specifically in terms of relationships and dating. Because First Man has this idea, you're not low confidence, you're low value. If we do buy that's true, how do you become high value? How do you become high value in a way that gives you confidence? Now, I'm not quite sure what First Man would say in this regard, but he would say like having a great body will make you feel high value because something you had to earn, but also like building up a great business. For him, it's like, you know, like living in a penthouse or something, or having a great car. He had this video where he talked about how he thinks investing in like a flashy, cool car just makes life easier. Because one of the things with dating is that you can't show off. You can't just be like, yo,
I have money.
I have money. So you got to buy the car just as like a status symbol.
This is like my I have money in the form of an object.
Yeah. But like how do you gain value if you are low value? How do you build up confidence?
Man, I think it's like what we've been saying. I think it's just like work every day until, you know, reach your perceived potential or close to it for a long time, and just continue on the path. And sort of like, I think going through hard struggles, trials and tribulations, even if they're not like work related, it could be related to your physique, you know, just anything, just braving bad circumstances, I think gives you a level of confidence, especially when things are good. Cause like all the time you can sort of look and be like, damn, I've been through way worse. Today's a joke. Yeah. You know? And then I think a lot of that, cause I remember I've said this a couple times on the podcast, but there were times when I would be on dates and like where my perceived value must have just shot up so much because the chicks I was getting dates with were suddenly sexy. And I was just like on these dates and I would be sitting across from them. I'd be like, what? Wait, how did I do this? And then like, it'd be like totally normal, like to them. And then I'd like slowly internalize like, okay, this is how it is now. Yeah, no, people are like respecting me at this level. And then you start getting comments on your body and stuff like this. And you're like, oh, this is like the struggles that I've been having for the past 4 years. This is the payoff of that, you know? And so I think it's like the only thing that's going to get you there is work and patience.
Work and patience. Yeah. I don't know when it happened, but even I went through that with that experience of you, where suddenly I just thought you were high value. And, cause I just saw you as when starting out, like someone I was maybe like kind of like big brothering through a lot of stuff related to cinematography. I didn't have a lot to offer outside of that, I didn't feel. But suddenly like one day I saw you and I was like, dude, you're like a badass. And I legit have no idea when it happened, because I'd just be like, hey, can you edit this? And I'd go off. Like I'd be too busy on my own thing, you know. I wouldn't be paying attention. Of course. And I didn't know how hard you were grinding. But clearly you must have been grinding super hard these last 2 years, because you just seem such a different person. compared to then. I gotta be honest. Sometimes I wonder why I'm even making videos about these topics, because I don't feel super confident right now.
Where do you feel the lack? Like, in what situations have you felt a lack?
I feel like I'm restarting the journey. I feel like I'm like very early on the journey of the right path. And like I can look back and know that even in these like last, 2021, 2020, 2020, those 2 years, I did work that whole time I was working. So I should feel very proud of some of the stuff. Like, I love pretty much every director series we shot, except for maybe the Sneego collab. I wish I've been able to put more into that. But every director series that we've made, I'm like, these are great videos. And they were shot in the last 2 years. Like, we worked hard on those. But I don't know why I don't feel like insanely confident. I think I'm finally realizing that confidence has to come from internal perceived effort. And I thought I was gaining confidence because like my channel was growing, channel revenue was going up, and I was successfully for a while being able to pull off the day job and the channel.
All the metrics were in your favor.
The metrics were in my favor in a big way, and I could objectively see like it's hard to keep a full-time corporate software job and grow a channel at the same time. It's kind of tough.
Yes.
And so I was successfully doing that. I wasn't seeing a whole lot of people do what I was doing to my level. And I thought that was giving me confidence, but I don't think something was missing. I think it was just that being in line with my true values was missing. And so like I feel really good about my perceived efforts these days, but I wonder, am I still back early in the journey? Maybe I'm a couple months into the journey of living well.
I think life has like different chapters, and so you might feel like you're at the bottom of a hill now. And I think life will do that to you. It's like you'll just consistently reset and you'll be like, this is my new standard, my new baseline. This is how everything is. But I think if you compare your activities now to yourself like 5 years ago, you're just like far more effective. Even when like last year, then you had been maybe at 20, early 20s, right? Yeah,
it really makes me buy into the philosophy we've been building up over this conversation, because the LA years, I was not confident at all. Part of that was because that environment, it's just tough. If everyone is like trying to flex on each other all the time, it's like not good for your mental health anyway. But I wasn't fully, I was drinking too much, I was fapping too much. And even though I was on point with a lot of discipline, like I would still try. I didn't have like the right leverages in place to like feel like I could make progress in my career. I was reading a lot of self-help books.
Yeah.
And like I didn't know how to apply them. When I moved back home and I was living with my parents and I was still unemployed, that 1.5 year period from being unemployed to working at Thomson Reuters to studying Salesforce, getting rejected at like a badass job. At the time, it would have bumped up my salary to $55K a year. But like studying for that, like I worked so hard for that, and failed at it. And like that whole 1.5 years of effort, working on my demo reel, saving up $1,000 for that, so confident. I was also just like super dialed in on not masturbating, but like my perceived effort, even though I was a kid living at home with my parents, my perceived effort was excellent for that 1.5 years.
And I think a part of actually the gain of confidence over time is like when you take on a new thing, like a demo reel or studying for a Salesforce exam, like you feel fear because you're like, oh shit, like I have to make this good, like, or I have to pass this test. There's something on the line. So you feel that fear, you confront that fear, you overcome that fear. And I think if you are constantly just like pursuing new or more exciting things than you've previously pursued, you constantly come up against this fear and you're constantly forced to overcome it. And I think that consistent overcoming of the fear, you've just like proven to yourself, oh, I've overcome fear before. And then you're faced with a new challenge because that's what life will do. And you're like, oh, I've felt this. Like I feel fear right now, but I've felt that and I've overcome in the past, like a lot of times now.
Yeah.
So I could do that again. And it's no different,
Yeah, I guess if I were to, maybe my lower confidence really came after that period of time. I mean, I still was doing things. I was like, I bought the house and I filled it out and all this stuff. But I can feel it slowly starting to climb back up. And a lot of what you just said here, where I'm like stepping out, trying new things out of a sense of courage, I see myself doing that back now, and I'm able to climb up my confidence up a little bit more. But in a way, I would tweak what First Man had said, Chris had said, you know, on his philosophy is like, you don't have low confidence, you have low value. Thing is, you can change your value quickly.
Yeah.
And you don't have to change your results to change your value. Your value changes when you feel you can look at yourself at the end of the day and be like, I tried. Today, I tried. And I'm fighting for that feeling at the end of every day. I'm getting it more now. Like, I'm really proud of myself that I'm able to like remember that part of me. Especially some of these these goals I've set for myself. I brought my mile time down to 7:04. Such an arbitrary thing, right? It made me feel so confident. I'm like, I've been like running sprints and running brutal boxing sessions for like 2 months now. And just every time filling a boxing round, every time I finished a boxing round, I just like the thought that would go through my head is like, I'm such a slow, fat fucking loser. You know?
Yeah.
You just see me like, you've filled me during a lot of these. I just feel like I'm like dying. I'm like, look like I'm gonna break down crying because I'm like just trying so hard. I'm like, why am I still so slow? I've been boxing for like 7 months now.
Yep.
And I'm still so slow. And I'm like lethargic, oh. But I'm like, I brought that mile time down. I'm like, I got faster. Like, a lot of it, when you start with the physical, and maybe we can now bring it into like the last third of the conversation where we try to break things down tangibly. Setting these physical goals, performance-based goals, and like working towards them is a great way to kick off confidence, like building confidence.
I think that there's just like no better proof, you know, when it comes to, especially an endeavor like lifting, where the numbers just go up. And you're like, oh, I'm like literally stronger than I was a week ago. Yeah. You know? And so if you are in need of like proving to yourself that you're getting better at a consistent pace, like lifting or running, Goggins just put out a video on his Instagram where he was like, if you don't like yourself, do what I did and start from scratch, you know?
Oh, dude, I needed to hear. I've been arriving at that conclusion on my own, but like I needed to hear that. Like, yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. That's why I do think there's like an accumulation effect, like where I will agree with First Man that like as you slowly get to a high value place, then you'll just notice that you have really high confidence. But I think none of that matters in terms of the metrics. It's just like solely that effort and like effective effort, because you have to see yourself getting better, you know? But like, even if you're at a really low place, my point is that you can like treat yourself with like respect and dignity, and you can just start from like a base of like, I respect myself enough to act in this way. Like I'm starting the journey to build someone that I like, even though I have nothing right now.
If I were to like artificially come up with this image of a twig of a man, 130 pounds, trying to bench press 95 pounds, and on the 5th rep, grinding it out and barely getting those 95 pounds up, and then taking a pause and then going back and doing 3 or 4 more sets of that, I think badass.
I think badass too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not about the weight. It's about the fact that you grinded it out.
Yes.
And I have to remind myself of that today, because I wish I had moved along further in so many things. Like I wish I would have maybe not fallen off the path, or, you know, I would have stayed on top of it sooner, you know. I guess it's never good to wrestle with the what if of like how I could have been.
Yeah.
But I see myself on the path now, and I'm like, you can find confidence in the fact that you're trying today. Like, that's cool. And I think it's something I would recommend to everyone is like, start with physical goals. Start with performance-based goals. Almost like, don't even start with like aesthetics. You know, like a lot of people lift for aesthetics. We lift to like look good.
Yes.
But that is such a long journey anyway, that the Bear Performance podcast had this amazing episode where they talked about the man who enjoys walking will go so much further than the man who's obsessed with the destination. And that's kind of like, that's what training for performance gives me, is like, I enjoy walking. I enjoy the journey.
The act.
Yeah, the act of it. And, you know, like we talk about lifting for so many different things, the progress in so many different things, but at the end of the day, we're also like just addicted to the euphoria that it gives us. Like the mental well-being might be number one that lifting gives us, and then everything else is after.
I think so. I think it just like immediately reduces so much anxiety that I'll have. if I don't do it. But I've told you this, but like there's got to be this like 100-year-old guy where as soon as it's warm enough in Minnesota, I see him running every day.
Yeah.
And he's straight up like in his 90s. And the dude is outside in like knee pads, elbow pads. He's got sunscreen. It's like thickly all over his skin. He's wearing like a sun hat. But I see him outside every fucking day. And he's going slow as shit.
Yeah.
But every time I see him, I think thug. Like, God damn, you are thugging it out every single day.
Yeah.
Like you are harder than the fastest runner, like who's just like sprinting by. I don't care. Like that's a dude where I'm just like, damn, you're going so hard. Why? I'm like curious. I like want to know what's up.
Yeah. You want to know like what, yeah. When you see someone trying super hard, you're like, where's this coming from?
Yeah. I'm like, give me some of that. Like I want to be that way at like 90.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So if you're trying to build up your confidence and you're in a certain place, I would just say, man, the number one thing you can do, because it's just within your control. Start with a performance-based goal. Pick one performance-based goal and work towards it. Like exhaust yourself that day in the endeavor of it, and then whatever, focus on recovery and all that.
And I think even like if you're like very out of shape and have never really committed to exercise, just like start off like be like, I'm gonna run 15 minutes today, and then run 15 minutes a day for like a week, and then up it to 30 minutes, you know, and then like slowly increase. I don't think it has to be any like grandiose, like you don't have to become a gym rat to experience like the benefits of increased value and increased confidence.
Yeah. I mean, if you're starting from such a disadvantaged place with fitness, just set a goal of like completing a certain number of sessions. Like I may not be able to do anything on any particular day, but I will, by 3 months from now, I will have completed like 40 sessions of training.
And that's where I think an idea like tonnage is like super valuable.
Yeah.
Where if you like, just like do a reflection of like the previous year of your life and be like, how many workouts did I get in? All right, cool. This year I want to like get X amount of workouts more in, you know, and then reflect at the end of the year. And so like often it's hard on your day to day to be like, am I doing that much better? And I know we've often felt this way where like on your day to day, you feel like fucked, you know, you're like everything's shit. But if you just reflect on your tonnage and the perceived effort, like how many workouts have you done in 2021 versus 2020? You know,
Yeah.
you would just like be like, oh no, I'm clearly a much better human being.
Yeah. The second thing that I've been implementing with my own goals now that I think is super valuable for confidence sake is that I think people are quite bad at setting goals, and people have differing philosophies on whether goal setting is good or not. You know, should I focus on the system or the goal? But I find goals very, very motivating, and they help me think creatively. But like with each goal that you set for yourself, genuinely ask yourself, how much confidence do I have in being able to complete this goal out of a scale of 1 to 10? Like the 6-minute mile thing, I feel like almost 10 out of 10 confidence that I can hit that, because it's just numbers. It's just a number of sessions. Like maybe it'll take an extra month, but I know I can hit it. Especially now, seeing myself hit 7:04 with a mile. Like I know I can hit.
You're
6
like
minutes.
right there, yeah.
Yeah. So 10 out of 10 confidence. Another goal of mine is a 315 squat, 3-plate squat. I have 10 out of 10 confidence on that because I've already 1 rep maxed, like 290. So I'm like, okay. Granted, my goal is to hit it for like 3, but like that's a 10 out of 10 confidence on that. A few of my other business goals, they're more like 8 and 7. And I think those are valuable to have because it's like, now I have to start exercising a little bit of creativity and optimism and hope in achieving it. And I have to like be willing. You have to have reasons to exercise courage. Like you have to have a belief that like the reason I'm trying something new today, whether it's a new cold email or traveling to a new city for a collab or going up to that girl for a cold approach, is because it's in service of this goal that I only feel a 7 or 8 out of 10 confidence in. But 7 out of 7 or 8, it's enough hope where like it's like reasonable enough where you're like you're not dejected about it.
Yes. And I think a big part of like having courage is like a willingness to face failure.
Yeah.
You know? And I think once you've done that, it's like often when I bench and now you are experiencing with your deadlift, you will fail a set, you know?
Yeah.
And I think just getting used to being there with that weight and just like getting yourself used to that stress and fear and heaviness of whatever task you're pursuing, it takes courage to put yourself out there and fail. It takes courage to walk up to a girl and like be rejected.
Yeah.
You know? But I think the more you do that sort of thing, you'll just fail and you'll be like, oh, okay, I could try again. Like, it's not the end of the world, you know? And I think that that's like that will like build your confidence. Like if you're like, oh, that goal was like more than I could chew this year, but maybe not next year. Yeah.
The rationale that might go on inside of brain mail is
male brain.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Brain mail. Sorry. The rationale that goes on inside a male brain oftentimes is like, if I see this girl, I think maybe she's out of my league or something, you know, like, oh, she's probably not going to be interested in me. And if I go up and talk to her and she doesn't reject, and she rejects me, then my confidence is going to drop because she was right about like my thoughts about myself, my doubt in myself was true.
Yeah.
What will actually happen is, and I think this only is true if the rest of your life has an appropriate amount of perceived effort in it. If you are efforting in your life in the ways that in the goals that are like 10 out of 10, like, you know, you can hit them, and even the 7 or 8 out of 10 ones, you go up to the girl and she turns you down, your confidence is actually going to go up.
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, maybe this was like the 3 out of 10 confidence level goal. Like getting a girl like this, I feel I have very little belief in myself in it being able to pull this off. And you know what? It didn't work out, but damn, I was courageous. I tried. Who am I? What kind of person am I that I'm willing to do this thing that I never thought I'd be able to do?
Yeah.
Just the attempt. And that will build your confidence.
Yeah. I remember when I was in high school,
yeah, there
was this girl that I wanted to ask to prom. And my friends told me like they had been, you know, in the way high schoolers are, like they had been in contact with her friends. It was supposedly like a sure thing. I was good. Just, I had to like muster up the sack to ask her. Right. And, I just was so afraid, and I put it off for like a week. Yeah. And then I found out she was going with some kid from like a different school to our prom, and I was like, oh, well, fuck. I thought this was a sure thing. I thought looking back, it's like I didn't go to my prom, and I was just like, oh, what? I don't fucking care. You know, I was like that guy. And I just know like, oh, you were just a pussy. You were just so afraid of like potentially being rejected. And why? It's like to this day I like cannot dissect why, and it's just because I wasn't willing to face that like 3 seconds of fear putting myself on the line for that ask. Yeah. Because even if it was a no, it's like, man, at least I could be recounting now like, oh, I got rejected. Like, it's like I wish I had been rejected, dog, but instead I just didn't even ask. Yeah, I mean, it's a very understandable thing. Like, we can handle rejection in so many aspects of life. But rejection in any sort of romantic pursuit, it is just like, I think we're evolutionarily programmed to just like at all costs stay away from that. Because I mean, it's not about sex. It's about the soul. It's about the ego. It's about, you know, like, I know. It's about like existence itself. On the contrary note to that, I have been in that position time and time again. But in middle school, in 7th grade, I was kind of a fat. I still had a ton of baby fat. I was kind of fat, to be honest, dude, as a 7th grader. And I just adored this girl, Hillary. Shout out to Hillary, man. Shout out to Hillary. It took everything, every ounce of courage I didn't even think I had, to ask her to be my partner for History Day. Because the thing is, no one else worked in a team. A lot of people worked solo. So I'm like, us working on a History Day project together was basically me saying like, I adore you. Yes. And it's like, she would have known that. I know that's kind of a silly example to bring up. Sure. But it was just definitely... Everyone would know that because no one else asked for a partner. Yeah. And I just said, hey, like, do you want to be my... somehow I got the words out, and she like lit up and she was like, yes. I mean, she had been waiting for it. Oh, fuck yeah. And the ecstasy I felt, like, I mean, I was listening to a lot of Bollywood as a middle school. Just the music started playing. I ran through the hallways. I was like, what is this? I was jolted. Amazing. With energy. Which is why the last point I originally wanted to make is you should also have the goals. Now, you should have goals that are 10 out of 10, 7 out of 10 in like your perceived ability to execute on them. Yep. And then have like 1 or 2 3 out of 10s. Because you're probably going to fail because you only have 3 out of 10 confidence in hitting it. But that new identity that you're going to form in the acts of courage that you have to take on to do that, to attempt it, is going to build you up in ways you can't even imagine. And then there is a chance that Hillary will say yes. Like, there is a chance you'll freaking get it anyway. And I mean, that's just exhilaration. And I think a big thing there is like just giving your mind the freedom to think in that way. Like giving your mind the freedom to be like, all right, I am in pursuit of a 3 out of 10 goal. your mind will just open up to new ideas and like a new, it's like you almost like a thing we've talked about in the past is like, who do I need to become to like achieve this goal? And you'll start like being able to like map out like what changes need to be made, you know?
My 3 out of 10 goal right now is like, you know, booking that high-end client, something like a Prada.
Yep.
And I just I did a mindstorm about it the other night, and I was like, damn, these are actually so many cool things that I could try. Like, it didn't even, before I was like, I would have just thought, oh, this is impossible.
Yeah.
But like after doing that mindstorm, I was like, man, I feel like I probably am still, I don't know how I'm going to hit this, but if I were to try all of these things, it would just be a unique experience. It would also give us a reason to go back to New York City, which we would do better this time. It would be fun.
Yes.
But yeah, confidence, I mean, it doesn't just come from being high value. Confidence comes from like your ability to look yourself in the eye and know that you tried. Like that's the takeaway for today's podcast episode. And we hope you enjoyed it. Greatness is coming. We'll catch you guys next week, every Sunday on everywhere podcasts can be found. Cheers.